back? All right, I see some thumbs up, some okay, very nice. How's everyone doing? Thanks for coming out so early. That's well, 9:30. It's not that early. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, I think that's me. You can recognize me with the cap. I actually made that cap. I paid someone in Bali to make it. It's quite nice. It's like a black on black Supabase logo. And sometimes, if you follow Supabase, you can win a Supabase cap. This is me. You can find me Thor web dev, kind of across socials. I do developer experience, developer relations at Supabase. Maybe a quick show of hands. Who has heard of Supabase? Okay, good amount of folks. That's nice. So we built backend infrastructure, kind of backend as a service, powered by Postgres. Yeah, please come in. No worries. We only just started. What you can do is, there's a tweet as well about my talk with a link to, well, the live stream. Actually, don't need to look at that. But if you want to kind of get a link to all sort of the demos and the resources kind of from this talk, you can scan this to get the page, and then you can look at that. And so actually, I only put this together yesterday. So I think if we reload this, yeah, okay. So we'll do a little kind of live demo participation piece, and we'll see how that goes. So it is a live demo with like Hugging Face, Transformers.js, and Supabase real time. So we'll see if I made some offerings to the demo gods this morning, and we'll see how this goes. But I have a Supabase t-shirt with me. It is size XL, so if you like oversized shirts, you can participate here in the audience to win that. And so later on, you'll just need to open the demo, like during the live demo, open it on your laptop. It doesn't work so well on the phone because it actually pulls down a pretty large model, which I only realized is like 1.5 gigabytes, I think. So maybe don't do it on your phone. But then, or you can just kind of take a video while the live demo is going on. But you know, it's always more impressive if you show like it's working on your machine. So yeah, if you want to do that, open the demo. We'll have a look at it later, and then you can just take a screen recording or a screenshot or like a recording with your phone, and you just tweet it and you tag me, and then you can win a t-shirt if you want. Okay. So what will we be talking about today? So that's kind of in the lower part here. Did everyone get a chance to scan the QR code? All good? Thumbs up. Okay, sweet. So what we'll be looking at is you know, AI in the browser. And I mean, you know, there's been things around like TensorFlow for ages and things like that, but only recently kind of a lot of that open source AI model, you know, movement has been happening. And are you familiar with Hugging Face? Are people familiar with that? Yeah. So like Hugging Face in a way kind of becoming sort of the GitHub of like open source large language models. And what is really cool is, so Hugging Face is actually developing this library called Transformers.js. So if you're familiar with kind of, you know, Python and sort of working with large language models in Python, you know, that's kind of where you're using transformers. So that's the idea of like using kind of the same Transformers workflows, but in JavaScript. And so Transformers.js, pretty neat. There's Xenova, if you want to follow him on Twitter. He always puts out some really cool demos. So I think if yeah, we'll take a look at that in a second. But you can find him, I think, on Twitter. It's just Xenova. This guy, Xenova. If I remembered correctly, no, maybe not. Okay. We'll find it later, or you can check on my Twitter. I generally retweet his posts. But so Transformers.js, there's a bunch of stuff, a bunch of demos that we can look at. And specifically, like what I've been obsessed with is sort of OpenAI Whisper. If you heard of Whisper, right, it's sort of the you know, is it called like Chinese Whisper? Is sort of the game of like you whisper to someone else, right, and then you see what comes out at the end. It's similar to that, but just the machine, you're basically whispering to the machine and then you see what the machine understands. And so I just want to show you this demo. You can find the source code there as well. But so the demo here is running kind of fully in the browser. And basically what you're doing is you're pulling down this open source Whisper-based model. And it's been transformed for the ONNX runtime. So ONNX runtime is interesting. I think it's an open source project by Microsoft, actually. So thanks for that. And so it is a runtime that actually allows you to run large language models via WASM in the browser. So that's actually what we're doing here. And so if you're looking at this now, we can load the model. So we're loading the model here from Hugging Face. And so this is something that you need to do the first time around. You're basically you're pulling down the model. It's kind of like a git pull, if you think about it. And then once the model is loaded, it is locally available on your machine and running in the browser. And so actually maybe we can go, I kind of pre-pulled this here. And I hooked this up to Supabase real-time, and we're going to have a bit of fun. So if we say npm run dev, I'm just going to run this locally on my machine. Hopefully it loads a bit quicker then. Yeah, so here I have it pre-fetched. And now you can see as I'm talking, so in real time, I'm getting transcription. Live transcription here. And now you're saying, okay, hey, we had this for ages, right? Like Google Translate, been doing that in my browser for many, many years. But what's really cool now, if I just go and I turn off my Wi-Fi, it still works. So here we're actually doing the transcription using the OpenAI Whisper model, kind of pre-trained and running on this ONNX runtime in WASM in your browser. And so it's running fully locally on your machine. And so even if you turn off the Wi-Fi, this will keep working because it's a pre-trained model. But now if you turn the Wi-Fi back on, what we can do is we can use this as an input for the live demo with Supabase real-time. And so if you go back here, and you go now on your machine, you open this receiver piece, and I'm just going to do this here side by side. So basically what we're doing is we're taking the transcription from our OpenAI Whisper, and we're basically using Supabase real-time, which is kind of a WebSocket infrastructure, to stream that as the input into another website that is running a Facebook model. I think it's the I forgot the name. You can check it in the source code. But it's running, and I didn't realize, so that model is pre-trained for 200 languages. So it's basically text-to-text translation for 200 different languages. And so it's actually quite big. So if you're running it, if you have like a powerful MacBook, then you can follow along. Do this now. Okay, but so now comes the interesting part. So if we actually change the language, vielleicht ein bisschen Deutsch. Gibt es Leute hier, die Deutsch sprechen? Kein einzigen. Und jetzt könnt ihr sehen, hier kommt unsere deutsche Transkription. Und da auf der rechten Seite kommt unsere Übersetzung. All right, yeah, that's great. Thanks. Maybe German is not the most popular language. Maybe that's why the applause wasn't that big. What we can also try, and unfortunately, 大家好，我的中文还不好。对对，我是住在新加坡的德国人。
Wow.
Well, so yeah, unfortunately. Okay, wait. Let me. So unfortunately, this it's not that great in Chinese. So the Latin languages, in terms of the speech recognition, work a lot better. What I actually said is, like, I'm a German who lives in Singapore, yeah. So the Mandarin recognition not that great, but also you got to realize that we're using kind of a model that is very small, because we're pulling it down on our machine. But what I kind of want to convey here is that, you know, if you're looking at this, so this is like a 3-year-old MacBook Air. Right, like M1 chip, barely any RAM. You can't find a GPU in here. And yes, you can run some of these models locally on your machine, which is really, really neat. And so, but now the thing is actually that when you're doing this real time, so I'm transcribing, I'm streaming it, I'm broadcasting it in real time via Supabase. Did anyone actually manage to pull it up on their machine? Yeah. Is it working for you? Do you speak any non-English languages? Very good. So you can now go and you can set the target language to Spanish, right? And do you get the translation?
Yeah, I actually did before. So
fantastic.
Yeah, it was working. I'll put it in Spanish right now. So
that's great. So really that's the idea, where it's like, okay, you know, obviously I can't on my machine, you know, like if I have a lot of servers, I can take all this, and I can just translate it into all languages. But rather than doing that, I'm just transcribing, I'm sending it to you, and then I'm letting your machine do the translation on your side. And so actually there's, you know, if you have a fairly beefy machine, you can run a good amount of these larger language models locally on your machine as well. Cool. Yeah, so much for the demo. Maybe let's have a quick look. We can just kind of take a look at sort of what that looks like in Transformers.js. So again, the source code is linked from the page. But what's really neat is we're just using a web worker here. So we're kind of putting it onto an additional thread. We're sort of putting together our speech recognition pipeline. So here you can see, so this is the ONX community whisper base model. So that's the model that you can see when you're initially loading the page. We're pulling this down from Hugging Face. This is just some configuration, kind of the pre-trained. You know, I'm not an expert in that, but I just kind of copied this out from Xenova. And basically, we're just processing the audio, and then this is kind of, you know, where it happens. You're basically just generating from the audio inputs, specifying sort of a max token window, the language, and the streamer, and then in the end, we get our output text, and that's what we're seeing back kind of on the page. And so here, I just kind of, you know, just maybe to show you how easy it is to sort of real-time broadcast with Supabase. So you set up your Supabase.js client. You create a channel here. So the channel is called City.jsconf Singapore. I just have, you know, sort of a little matcher that just kind of gets out, you know, as we're streaming in the transcription, kind of gets out the last full sentence. And then, you know, what we're doing is actually, so the problem is with Mandarin, actually, we don't really have a punctuation here in this transcription. So in Mandarin, I was just sending kind of anything that's being transcribed off. to the broadcast. Otherwise, I'm just basically broadcasting the last full sentence. But then how the broadcast works is basically you just say the channel you created earlier, you send a broadcast, you specify a certain event type, and then you just send the payload, and then we get that on our other site, and we feed that into the translation model. Cool. So that is sort of the browser side of things. So again, Transformers.js, a really, really cool project. There's a lot of stuff. If you check out kind of the Hugging Face Xenova, a lot of cool demos there. He's doing like transcription with like timestamps and things like that. So there's really, really exciting stuff happening here. Now, on the edge, so if you're familiar with Supabase, we have Supabase Edge Functions. And so Edge Functions are interesting because they are, again, just kind of little JavaScript isolates. So they are just kind of sort of spec down versions of, maybe like an AWS Lambda function. And so what you can do is we basically baked into the Supabase Edge Functions runtime. We've bundled it with this ONNX runtime from Microsoft to get kind of the same sort of experience where you can run inference models and large language models in your Supabase Edge Functions. Pretty easy API here, just model run, sort of specify kind of the model name. And so one demo I want to show you here. We were lucky, apparently my offerings to the demo gods worked out pretty well. We'll see if it works out a second time. So what we have here is an edge function that uses the GTE small model. So the GTE small model is specifically for text inference. So we're taking text and we're translating it into an embedding vector, which we can have a look. So Supabase status, we can run kind of the entire Supabase stack locally, which is quite nice, including actually the Supabase dashboard. So you can see here on localhost, I'm running my Supabase dashboard. And so here we can see we generated embedding vectors for kind of this text. Are people familiar with sort of RAG embeddings, vectors? Okay, I see less hands. I don't have enough time to kind of fully go into this, but basically what we're doing is we're taking something that is kind of human context. So in this case, a bed, for example, is, a piece of furniture, potentially made out of wood or kind of things like that. And so we know this, if you tell a human there's a bed, the human knows, okay, it's furniture, you sleep on it. So there's a lot of context kind of within that. And so what we're doing is we're taking sort of that human context and we're translating it into kind of machine context. And so basically this big vector is literally just a long array of numbers. So depending on your embedding, dimensions, so if you have more dimensions, you can kind of encode more context into that. But then what you can do is, by basically translating that into the vector space, you can now perform simple math on it, where you can do what you would call kind of semantic search or proximity search, where you can say, okay, give me all the furniture, and it will return you kind of all the furniture, because it's basically just looking, okay, semantically, what is the closest to furniture? And then it's just doing math, kind of proximity search on these items, and it's giving you back that furniture. So what we can see here, so the way this works is basically we take a search query, like furniture, for example. We're then generating an embedding vector for that furniture. So we're translating that into kind of this number, array of numbers. And then what we can do is we can query our embeddings, where we then look for, okay, what is semantically, context-wise the closest to my search query. And so maybe we can do a quick demo on that. So we can run kind of our Supabase Edge Functions locally here. And then, actually, can you read that in the back? Yeah. So now we're just making a search, and our search term is vehicles, right? And so if we fire this off, we now see, okay, we're getting back our car, our boat, our train, right? And there's no other context within this data set. So we haven't labeled these with categories or any kind of metadata or anything. So all the context is actually encapsulated within that model. So the model is pre-trained. The model knows kind of all that context. And we're telling them, okay, so the bad, translate that into kind of some semantic context, and then we're doing a query on that. So maybe what we can do is, anything else you want to search for? Wood? So one thing that's interesting, okay, let's look for wood. Yeah, so a boat might be made out of wood, a bed as well. A dog, okay. Eaten wood? Oh, yes. Yeah, that could be the case. Now, another thing that's right, like an apple. So an apple could be food, but what else could an apple be? Exactly, right? So if we, for example, search for electronics, we get an apple. We get a car. Yes, there's a lot of electronics in a car. Desk, our Apple is on the desk. That could be both a laptop or, yeah. So obviously our data set here is very, very limited. But that's really what we can do. How am I on time? Do you have? No more time. So the other thing I wanted to show you is kind of running large language models locally. But maybe you just dig into that yourself. There's actually another talk later from Jan.ai who will be talking, Nicole will be talking about running large language models locally on your machine. Mozilla has a great project called LlamaFile, and then Ollama as well is a great one. And you can then hook that into your Supabase Edge Functions as well. Very, very much appreciate you coming out this early in the morning.
Thanks so much. Thank you.